You work well, you deliver, you are consistent, and still, bigger opportunities never come to you. This pattern repeats itself across industries, across companies, across relationships. You watch as others move forward while you remain exactly where you are. The puzzle persists despite your competence. I am Rabbi Ezra Melech. What follows is observation of a mechanism most people never see. You are useful to others. They call when projects need completion. They rely on your output. They know you will handle what is given to you. But advancement stops there. The conversation about larger roles never includes your name. The expansion of responsibility bypasses you entirely. People depend on you, yet they do not entrust you with growth. They give you tasks, not territories. They seek your execution, not your expansion. The boundary between utility and opportunity remains fixed. You exist on one side of this boundary while others cross it freely. Your work product meets standards. Your reliability creates comfort for those above you. Your consistency provides predictability in unpredictable environments. But visibility never expands beyond your current scope. Recognition stays confined to your immediate function. Appreciation exists, but transformation does not. The pattern shows itself in meeting dynamics. You contribute, but are not consulted on direction. You execute, but are not included in planning. You solve immediate problems, but are not considered for strategic problems. Your presence serves current needs, but not future possibilities. Others receive invitations to larger conversations. Others are asked for input on decisions that affect multiple areas. Others find themselves in rooms where future direction is discussed. This expansion happens around you rather than including you. The circle of influence grows, but your position within it does not change. Your sphere of operation remains constant while others expand theirs. Your level of access stays the same while others gain new access. Your range of influence holds steady while others extend their reach. The gap between your contribution and your inclusion continues to widen. People speak positively about your work. They acknowledge your value. They recognize your consistency, but they do not associate you with possibility. They see you as maintenance rather than growth. They view you as current solution rather than future potential. The distinction matters more than most realize. Your competence is not questioned. Your dedication is not doubted. Your reliability is not disputed. But something else determines who receives opportunity. Something separate from performance metrics governs advancement. Something beyond work quality shapes who gets chosen for expansion. Most people misunderstand why opportunity stops flowing toward them. They search for explanations that make logical sense given their experience. They examine the visible factors that seem connected to advancement. They focus on elements they can measure and compare. The common conclusion points to insufficient talent. People assume they lack the skills others possess. They believe their capabilities fall short of what advancement requires. They think additional training will bridge the gap between their current position and future possibility. They invest in skill development expecting different results. Others focus on networking deficiencies. They assume relationships drive advancement more than performance. They believe access to influential people creates opportunities. They think social connections determine who gets chosen for bigger roles. They invest energy in relationship building expecting this to change their trajectory. Many point to unfair systems as the explanation. They see advancement as governed by politics rather than merit. They believe organizational bias prevents qualified people from moving forward. They think structural problems block their path to opportunity. They wait for systems to become more equitable. Some identify favoritism as the primary factor. They see personal preferences influencing decisions about advancement. They believe certain people receive advantages because of who they know. They think subjective factors override objective qualifications. They assume removing bias would create different outcomes. These explanations feel reasonable because they address visible differences between people who advance and those who do not. They provide actionable directions for change. They suggest specific areas for improvement. They offer hope that effort in the right direction will produce advancement. But these explanations miss the underlying mechanism that governs how opportunity moves through organizations and relationships. They address surface symptoms rather than core dynamics. They focus on correlation rather than causation. They mistake proximity for connection. The real mechanism operates differently than most people understand. Opportunity follows a pattern that exists beneath the level of conscious decision-making. The pattern governs behavior without people realizing they are following it. The mechanism shapes choices about advancement in ways that feel natural but actually follow predictable rules. Opportunity follows trust. This statement requires precision because trust operates differently than most people assume. Trust is not admiration for someone's work. Trust is not appreciation for someone's contribution. Trust is not respect for someone's expertise. Trust is something more specific and more consequential. Trust represents willingness to accept exposure to risk. When someone offers opportunity, they create potential for both positive and negative outcomes. The person receiving opportunity can succeed or fail. Success reflects well on the person who created the opportunity. Failure reflects poorly on them. The dynamic creates inherent vulnerability for the opportunity provider. People offer opportunity based on their assessment of risk tolerance. They consider not just the likelihood of success, but the potential damage from failure. They evaluate not just the upside potential, but the downside consequences. They measure not just what could go right, but what could go wrong, and how much it would hurt them personally. This calculation happens unconsciously in most cases. People do not explicitly think through risk assessment when making advancement decisions. They do not consciously weigh potential damage against potential benefit. They operate based on intuitive feelings about safety and danger. But the mechanism follows consistent patterns regardless of conscious awareness. Trust emerges from perceived safety rather than perceived competence. Someone can demonstrate exceptional ability while still feeling risky to advance. Someone can show consistent performance while still seeming dangerous to expand. Someone can prove reliability while still appearing unsafe for bigger responsibility. Competence and safety operate as separate variables. Safety relates to predictability of behavior under pressure. People assess how someone will respond when stakes increase. They consider how someone will handle failure if it occurs. They evaluate how someone will represent them in situations they cannot control. They measure how much damage someone could create if things go badly. The assessment includes multiple dimensions beyond work product. People consider communication patterns under stress. They evaluate decision-making when resources are limited. They assess blame attribution when problems arise. They measure loyalty when competing interests emerge. These factors matter more than technical capability for advancement decisions. Someone who appears capable but unpredictable creates anxiety for potential sponsors. Someone who seems talented but reactive generates concern about future behavior. Someone who demonstrates skill but independence raises questions about alignment. The concern is not about current performance but about future risks. People unconsciously categorize others based on their comfort level with expansion. Some people feel safe to expand because their behavior patterns suggest low risk of damage. Other people feel dangerous to expand because their patterns suggest high potential for harm. The categorization happens quickly and often sticks permanently. The categorization influences every subsequent interaction. People who feel safe to expand receive different conversations. They get included in planning discussions. They are asked for input on decisions. They are given visibility in situations that matter. The access creates opportunities for further advancement. People who feel dangerous to expand receive different treatment. They get managed rather than developed. They are given tasks rather than territories. They are monitored rather than trusted. They are contained rather than elevated. The treatment reinforces their position rather than changing it. The mechanism operates independently of conscious bias or favoritism. People are not deliberately holding anyone back. They are not consciously choosing some people over others based on unfair criteria. They are following intuitive assessments about safety that feel rational and necessary. The outcomes appear unfair, but the process feels justified. The assessment of safety includes factors that have nothing to do with work performance. Voice tone during disagreement affects perception of risk. Body language during stress influences comfort with expansion. Response patterns to criticism shape willingness to advance. Communication style during conflict determines trust levels. These elements matter more than most people realize. Someone who becomes defensive when questioned appears risky to advance. Someone who blames others when problems occur seems dangerous to expand. Someone who withdraws when stressed feels unpredictable for bigger roles. Someone who argues when corrected creates anxiety about future situations. The patterns signal potential problems that outweigh demonstrated competence. Conversely, someone who stays calm under pressure appears safe to advance. Someone who accepts responsibility for problems seems trustworthy for expansion. Someone who communicates clearly during stress feels predictable for bigger roles. Someone who adapts when corrected creates confidence about future situations. These patterns signal safety that enables opportunity. The signals operate below conscious awareness in most cases. People do not explicitly think about these factors when making advancement decisions. They experience gut feelings about comfort and discomfort. They have intuitions about safety and risk. They make choices based on feelings rather than analysis. But the patterns behind the feelings follow consistent rules. Understanding this mechanism explains why advancement often appears arbitrary. People see qualified individuals passed over for less qualified candidates. They observe hard workers stuck while others advance quickly. They notice talent being overlooked while mediocrity gets promoted. The pattern seems unfair because the real factors are invisible. The mechanism also explains why common improvement strategies fail to produce advancement. Adding skills does not change safety perception. Building relationships does not alter risk assessment. Working harder does not modify trust calculations. Improving performance does not shift comfort levels. The interventions address secondary factors rather than primary mechanisms. The safety assessment becomes self-fulfilling over time. People who feel risky to advance receive limited opportunities. Limited opportunities provide fewer chances to demonstrate safety under pressure. Fewer chances to demonstrate safety maintain the original assessment. The cycle reinforces itself without conscious intention. People who feel safe to advance receive expanded opportunities. Expanded opportunities provide more chances to demonstrate continued safety. More chances to demonstrate safety strengthen the original assessment. The cycle builds momentum toward further advancement. Success creates conditions for additional success. The pattern explains why some people experience rapid advancement while others plateau despite equal competence. The difference lies not in ability but in safety perception. Some people signal safety early and benefit from expanding opportunities. Others signal risk and get contained regardless of their capability. The trajectory becomes predetermined by initial assessments. Breaking this pattern requires understanding what creates safety perception, rather than focusing on what creates competence. Safety signals operate differently than competence signals. Building safety requires different strategies than building skills. Demonstrating safety follows different rules than demonstrating ability. The distinction matters for anyone seeking advancement. Most advancement advice focuses on competence building rather than safety signaling. People are told to develop skills, build relationships, work harder, and seek visibility. These strategies can help, but they do not address the core mechanism that governs opportunity flow. They treat symptoms rather than causes. They provide activity rather than solution. The consequences of misunderstanding this mechanism extend beyond individual careers. Organizations lose talent because they cannot access the full potential of their people. Teams operate below capacity because expansion feels risky. Innovation suffers because new ideas seem dangerous. Growth slows because change appears threatening. The impact spreads throughout entire systems. Work becomes increasingly transactional when safety concerns dominate advancement decisions. People focus on task completion rather than value creation. They emphasize process adherence rather than outcome optimization. They prioritize risk avoidance rather than opportunity pursuit. The environment becomes conservative and constrained. Advancement continues to bypass qualified people who signal risk rather than safety. Their competence is acknowledged but not rewarded with opportunity. Their contribution is appreciated but not expanded. Their reliability is valued but not leveraged for growth. They remain useful but not entrusted with expansion. Others get chosen more quickly because they signal safety more effectively. Their advancement appears rapid compared to equally qualified peers. Their opportunities seem disproportionate to their demonstrated ability. Their success looks unfair to those who work harder but advance slower. The pattern creates frustration for those who do not understand the underlying mechanism. Effort increases without expansion for people who focus on competence rather than safety. They work harder, hoping for different results. They develop additional skills, expecting advancement. They seek more responsibility, anticipating recognition. They invest energy in areas that do not influence the primary decision-making mechanism. The mismatch between effort and outcome creates confusion and resentment. Recognition stays confined to current scope rather than expanding to new possibilities. People receive praise for existing contribution without invitation to larger roles. They get acknowledgement for current performance without access to future opportunity. They experience appreciation without advancement. The boundary between recognition and expansion remains fixed. Others experience rapid expansion because their safety signals enable opportunity. They receive invitations to larger conversations. They get included in strategic planning. They are asked to take on broader responsibility. They find themselves in rooms where important decisions are made. The acceleration appears sudden, but actually follows predictable patterns. The gap between contribution and advancement widens for those who do not understand safety signaling. They see their work product improve without corresponding opportunity increase. They watch their skills develop without expanded access. They observe their reliability strengthen without additional trust. The disconnect between input and output becomes increasingly apparent. Visibility remains limited despite increased competence. People stay within their functional boundaries even as their capability exceeds those boundaries. They are seen as specialists rather than generalists. They are viewed as executors rather than strategists. They are categorized as tactical rather than strategic. The perception becomes more important than the reality. Access to decision-making stays constrained regardless of qualification level. People are consulted on implementation but not included in planning. They are asked for technical input but not strategic perspective. They are involved in execution but not direction setting. They remain outside the circle of influence where advancement originates. Influence operates within narrow boundaries that do not expand with demonstrated ability. People can excel within their current scope without gaining broader impact. They can become experts in their domain without accessing adjacent domains. They can master their role without expanding their role. Excellence in current position does not automatically create opportunity for position change. The pattern becomes entrenched through repeated interactions. Each advancement decision reinforces the original assessment. Each opportunity allocation confirms the established categorization. Each expansion choice validates the initial safety evaluation. The system develops momentum that becomes increasingly difficult to reverse. People begin to internalize their position within this system. They accept limited scope as permanent rather than temporary. They adjust their expectations to match their experience. They modify their ambitions to fit their circumstances. They begin to see themselves as others see them rather than as they could become. Others experience expanding possibilities because their safety signals create confidence in their potential. They receive opportunities that stretch their current capability. They get access to experiences that develop new skills. They are given challenges that demonstrate expanded capacity. The growth becomes self-reinforcing through accumulated success. The mechanism operates across all types of organizations and relationships. It governs advancement in corporate environments, entrepreneurial ventures, nonprofit organizations, and personal relationships. It influences who gets promoted, who gets funded, who gets supported, and who gets included. The pattern transcends specific contexts while maintaining consistent logic. Understanding this mechanism provides clarity about why advancement patterns seem arbitrary. It explains why competent people get passed over while others advance quickly. It illuminates why hard work does not guarantee opportunity. It reveals why traditional advancement strategies often fail to produce results. The insight shifts focus from confusion to comprehension. The mechanism also explains why some people seem to effortlessly attract opportunity while others struggle despite greater effort. The difference lies in safety signaling rather than competence demonstration. Some people naturally communicate safety while others inadvertently signal risk. The signals determine opportunity flow more than performance metrics. Recognition of this pattern allows for different strategic approaches to advancement. Instead of focusing solely on skill development, people can address safety signaling. Instead of emphasizing work output, they can consider behavior patterns under pressure. Instead of building technical competence, they can develop predictability and reliability in challenging situations. The insight reveals why common advancement advice produces inconsistent results. Generic strategies do not address individual safety signaling patterns. Universal approaches ignore specific risk perception factors. Standard recommendations miss personalized safety communication needs. Effectiveness requires customized understanding rather than general application. This understanding also illuminates why organizational development programs often fail to create advancement for participants. Training focuses on competence building rather than safety signaling. Development emphasizes skill acquisition rather than trust building. Programs address technical capability rather than risk perception management. The mismatch between intervention and mechanism explains limited results. The mechanism helps explain workplace dynamics that otherwise seem irrational. It clarifies why some people receive informal access while others remain formally excluded. It reveals why certain individuals get consulted on decisions outside their expertise while others are not consulted within their expertise. It explains why relationship patterns matter more than qualification patterns for advancement opportunities. You were seen as capable, but not safe to expand. This recognition provides the foundation for understanding why bigger opportunities never materialize despite your competence and consistency. The assessment was not about your ability to perform tasks or deliver results. It was about perceived risk associated with expanding your sphere of influence and responsibility. The safety evaluation happened through countless small interactions rather than formal assessment processes. Your response patterns during stress, conflict, criticism, and uncertainty created an impression of risk rather than reliability. The accumulation of these signals shaped how others categorized you for advancement purposes. Your competence was never questioned, but your predictability under expanded pressure created concern. Your work quality was appreciated, but your behavior patterns when stakes increased seemed risky. Your current contribution was valued, but your potential impact in larger roles felt dangerous to those making advancement decisions. The mechanism operates through unconscious risk assessment rather than conscious bias or favoritism. People making advancement decisions follow intuitive feelings about safety without realizing they are applying specific criteria. They experience comfort or discomfort with expansion possibilities based on accumulated behavioral observations. Your position became fixed not because of performance deficiencies, but because of safety signaling patterns. The categorization influenced every subsequent interaction and opportunity evaluation. The pattern reinforced itself through limited access that prevented demonstration of safety in expanded contexts. Understanding this mechanism explains why traditional improvement strategies failed to create advancement. Developing additional skills did not address safety concerns. Working harder did not modify risk perception. Building relationships did not change comfort levels with expansion. The interventions targeted secondary factors rather than primary mechanisms. The insight also explains why others advanced more quickly despite similar or lesser qualifications. Their advancement resulted from effective safety signaling rather than superior competence. They communicated predictability and low risk through behavior patterns that created confidence in their expansion potential. This understanding provides clarity about advancement dynamics without offering false hope or oversimplified solutions. The mechanism operates consistently across contexts and relationships. Recognition of the pattern enables different approaches to professional development and career advancement. The pattern will continue to influence how opportunity flows through organizations and relationships. People will continue to make advancement decisions based on safety assessments rather than pure competence evaluation. Understanding the mechanism provides insight into why these patterns exist and how they shape individual trajectories. Your experience reflects a common outcome of this mechanism rather than a unique personal failure. Many competent people find themselves categorized as useful but not trustworthy for expansion. The pattern affects talent allocation across entire organizations and industries. The mechanism explains why advancement often appears unfair or arbitrary to those experiencing it. The real factors determining opportunity flow operate below conscious awareness. The criteria seem disconnected from performance metrics and work quality. The outcomes feel random because the inputs are invisible. Recognition of this pattern provides clarity about past experiences and insight into future possibilities. Understanding why advancement stopped eliminates confusion about competence or effort levels. The insight shifts focus from self-doubt to systemic comprehension. Opportunity does not follow effort. It follows safety.